and this feeling of being in the world and being joyful. So there's tons of great research in that study if you want to take a look at it about women's health in general. But one of the things those authors and others talk about is longevity, about why women live longer than men, and there's all sorts of reasons. But some wonder and speculate about the significance of those relationships with other women over time. So interestingly, Ron, we know that men who are in a significant relationship with another woman are much likely to live significantly longer for a whole host of reasons. Part of it's health and choices around food and taking medicine and going to doctor's appointments. Women still in our culture are socialized to be the ones who coordinate those kinds of things most of the time. But we know that women live not only longer than men, but they live longer than women who lack strong and significant, satisfying social connections. So it's not just quantity, but then it's about how satisfying and full those are. Let me tell you this quick story. I'm going to tell you two more, and I'm going to conclude, and so we can have a little dialogue. This story is called My Person. My sugar pie, my honey pie, my sweetie pie. It's not my husband. No, she's my girl, my person. The one I tell everything to, and the one to whom and about whom I listen. The one I call to say something quick that lasts for an hour. We use pet names a lot. They become somewhat of a code, signaling our mood, our health, even the time of day. And the absence of it means something altogether different. Although such names are typically reserved for a significant other, she is the epitome of everything that a spouse cannot be, nor should he be. And thankfully, our respective and respectful husbands are grateful not to be the only ones. Besides, my husband calls me Buns, and that's a totally different story. A lot of the research, and two authors in particular, Ellen Goodman and Patricia O'Brien, they wrote the book, I Know Just What You Mean, The Power of Friendship in Women's Lives. When you ask women about their friendships, a lot of them answer the question speaking to impact of that relationship. So they talk about the impact of the friendships, things like being known and accepted, understood to the core, feeling you can count on and trust, having someone on your side, having someone to share stories and worries and secrets and all the good and tough stuff of life, someone who needs you in return. I'm going to skip to this story. I think that idea of impact is really beautifully captured in this last story, and then I'll conclude with a story of my own college, one of my own college roommates. This one story is called Coming to Kick Your Ass. Did I say that in this room? I just did. That's going to be on YouTube.
Worst things.
I know. I use that word because this woman used it in her story. I don't know my biological sisters, but I have a chosen sister. In my opinion, that makes our relationship even better. We're on speed dial on all of our telephones and have keys to each other's homes. We share holidays and celebrations, illnesses, and heartache. And most importantly, dog sitting and wardrobes. My family has become hers, and her family has become mine. 2 weeks ago, my sister had a health scare and had to have surgery. Today, we will face another health issue together as I go with her to the doctor for a biopsy. It'll be a long week waiting for the results, but I know that individually, we are strong women, but together, we are a force to be reckoned with. So look out, Cancer. If you are there, we are coming to kick your... That's where the word came from. Beautiful, I think, example, and great story to transition to this concluding story about my own college roommate, about the impact of female friendship. We are running out of time. So I'll tell you this story really briefly, and then we'll just have a couple minutes for questions and comments. My college best friend's name was Lisa, and our sophomore year of college at St. Norbert, we were RAs. I was on the second floor of Burke Hall, and she was on the third floor, and I was immediately attracted to Lisa. She was funny, she was brilliant, she took life a little less seriously than I did. I was like, ah! But she took it seriously, but she did so in a way that really challenged me to enjoy more of life. She was incredibly modest, and we talked deeply about things, everything, best friends, boyfriends, college or graduate school entrance exams. Lisa went off to get a Ph.D. in biochemistry, and then got a faculty position and a researcher position at UNC Chapel Hill. I was going off and got my Ph.D. in interpersonal communication, and a third roommate that we lived with our senior year, she ended up going off and getting a Ph.D. in psychology. And that woman, the psychologist now, actually is a colleague of mine at the University of St. Thomas. Her name is Elise. Lisa had moved, she had married, she had 2 beautiful daughters. She was raising them in Chapel Hill. She married one of her college sweethearts. She had 2, I mean, not simultaneously. On New Year's Eve, when she was just 34, she was diagnosed with colon cancer, and she died 8 months later. That was 10 years ago, on November 7th, that she passed away. So shortly before her death, I flew down to see her. We knew that it was imminent. It was a really strange kind of colon cancer. Young woman, really healthy. She spent most of her time in the hospital talking with a biologist and a chemist, saying, okay, how does this work? You know, they have little formulas, and that was confusing to everyone. She donated her body to science to help understand this rare kind of colon cancer. So I went down, I brought my college photos, and we made fun of our hair. We all had perms and Coca-Cola jeans and penny loafers, which I could rub back in. I hope And since her death, her husband, Mike, and my friend Elise, my colleague, and I have talked and we planned, and we just were able to reach a $25,000 endowed memorial scholarship to help students at St. Norbert College who want to study in the sciences. And it's reached its endowment phase. And we did that because Lisa, to all of us, was that woman. We are paying homage to her every single time that we raise money for that scholarship, every time we write those thank you notes, every time we talk about her, we're paying homage to her, how brilliant she was, how generous she was. And I tell you that story simply to encourage you as you think about the women in your lives, to think about how you're paying homage to them now, maybe while they're alive. A lot of us don't say those things out loud. How do you pay tribute to the women in your life? Because research shows they're not an extra. As I said, they're absolutely essential. And a lot of times the first thing we set aside as women are the times we spend in ritual with other women when things get busy or stressful. Like, oh, that's extra. I'm here to tell you it's not extra. So protect that time. Develop those rituals and sustain them because it's really worth it. Okay, I'm going to end there so that we have like 3 minutes. I'm a talker, I know. Quick comments or reflections or questions or your own stories before you move on to your next class. Yes?
Well, I went through cancer too myself. My son was 2. But the people who got me through it was not my husband, it was my friends. Because they were the ones that I cried with, and I couldn't talk to him about this. He was like, he didn't want to talk about it because it was too scary for him that I wouldn't be there. Yeah. And if it wasn't for my friends in church, the women, I don't think, and what I'd like to know is, I'm going to be married 42 years, and how do you get, and in fact, it's worse now because the kids are gone. How do you get someone who was brought up in a family who was they didn't talk a lot, whereas my family, it was big hugs. It's just the opposite. Yeah. And how do you, because through the years I've tried to gone through.
You're talking about your husband?
Yeah.
Oh.
How do you get that person to open up? Because you ask questions and they don't want to talk about it. There's jobs, you don't need to worry about it. Well, it's like shutting you out.
Right. I've got some tips for you. I don't know if you could hear Patricia before. She talked about getting through cancer with the help of her friends, not so much her husband, who didn't want to acknowledge it. Actually, so Lisa's husband was similar. They never talked about death, even to the second she died, because talking about it, he thought, we disagree, her friends were, what are you doing avoidance? Of course, we're trying to support him now. But Patricia good question. How do you help the non-expressors in your life become expressors? That's a whole semester class. I'll give you a few tips. One of the best, simplest things, and this works in almost all relationships, if you're having conflict, it's called meta-communication. And so talking about your talk and doing it at a time when you're not angry is absolutely essential. So for instance, I will say to my husband, who calls himself the tallest communication guinea pig in the country, 6'4" guinea pig of marital communication. He's like, what a bonus! I will say to him something like, so when you say, how was your day? And yet you still have your head looking at your phone, it tells me that maybe you're not as interested in hearing how my day was. So I'm meta-communicating. I'm talking about the talk at a time when I'm not really frustrated about it. So anytime you meta-communicate, you're talking about the ways that we talk. Sometimes, for instance, I've even had to say to my children, okay, so when you come home from a big event, here's what your mother needs. I need you to tell me a couple good things and a couple challenging things. So let's role play. Hi, Mom. So the 8th grade dance tonight, it was really hot and sweaty, and my best friend didn't show up, and my new shoes are dirty. And what I didn't like was that this boy was looking at me. And I'm like, okay, now you can go. We role play. Yeah. So it works in almost all relationships. It gets harder when patterns are set in stone. But don't give up. You're at the helm. You have another class to go to, but I'm going to be here for quite a while if you want to share comments or questions. Thank you for being the best audience ever. Have a great... Oh my God! We got to take 3 names. Are they right here? Okay. Linda, pick a name. If you pick your own, we're going to be suspicious.
It's better up